So let me get rid of, no offense, but let me get rid of y'all so I can see what I'm talking about. I just want to introduce you to the day in the life of a RYLArian in District 5080. And as we go along with our slideshow, you'll see across the top of this first slide, the current movers and shakers who make RYLA happen in our district. These are our senior staff who are all Rotarians, many of them like Dave here on our call today, with many 30 plus years of service, down to our married couple, these younger people that you see, Mikey with his arms up in the air and Stacy with the US flag, our Canadian couple that not only attended RYLA, met for the first time, but got engaged at RYLA and had Dave, our camp director at the time, facilitate their wedding. When they got married. And so they're still involved in RYLA today, and we're really excited to have them as part of our program. So my slideshow should be going from the beginning. Hang on. Bear with me while I try and figure out why my slides are not progressing. Has it progressed on your screen?
No.
Well, I get to have the first glitch in the system then. Let me bring you all back here and see if it works. If I progress, slideshow from beginning. Oh, this always makes me so nervous when something happens that you don't expect. You could look at those beautiful people the whole time, but I really have a lot more comments for you.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is, I don't know what to do, actually. Any hints, anyone?
Well, let me see if I can share my screen. Share screen. And let's see. Are you seeing my screen?
No, ma'am. Still seeing mine.
Okay. Oops. Darn, Debbie, I just lost yours.
Gosh, it worked so perfectly in practice. This makes me sad. I wanted to be so professional for all of you. One of the things we talk about at RYLA is public speaking and to have everything done in advance. And we did practice.
Your reputation as a professional has already been established, so don't be concerned about it.
Exactly.
Thank you. I think what I'll do is exit out of my computer and restart my whole slideshow and see if that works. So I appreciate your patience.
So while you're doing that, Debbie, maybe I should go on to Keith and we'll see if Keith has better luck.
All right, I just brought my slideshow back up. Give me one more chance,
okay.
Miss Lorraine.
Okay.
All right, can you see my screen again?
Yes.
All right, slide number 2 should be coming up.
Yep.
Say it happened.
Yeah, there.
Oh, thank you for your patience and that 3 minutes that it took off my speaking time. So I will be speeding up my speaking voice to share more with you.
We'll give you those 3 minutes back. Don't worry, Debbie.
So our fabulous RYLA is in Washington State, Idaho State, and parts of British Columbia. We've had 3 camp directors to date, 2 of which are on this call. Dave Douglas, who was camp director for more than 35 years. And then he has been my mentor all of the years that I've been involved in RYLA, which is 26 years and 16 as camp director. We've had hundreds of staff during that time and hundreds of junior staff as well. Our age range is 18 to 25. We've had camps in both Canada and the US over time. People ask us, how do we entertain campers for 8 days and get the commitment of a 9th day from our staff? Well, our camp is fun, it's energetic, we're hardworking, we're entertaining, they're entertaining, and most importantly, the campers make it their camp. My next couple of slides are going to show you the overall 8-day version of our camp, and I ask you to indulge me by not reading the slides, but allowing me to walk you through some of the highlighted areas. The reason I left the whole program up is just to give you an idea of the breadth of the width of the program that we have and how it works for us on a daily basis. So if you look at the 8-day version, and I encourage you to jot down ideas that resonate with you, we start with morning activities from 7 to 8 o'clock. Announcements include theme days like pajama days, neon night, Western attire, Hawaiian day, etc. News that the students put on, they are a news committee and they come up with our news every morning. That happens in the mornings. And they talk about activities of the previous day and upcoming events. We have 2 entertainment nights, 2 campfire nights, 2 multiple choice nights, a dance, and an occasional snipe hunt. We have staff meetings every day at lunch. We have free time from 1 to 3. And those are all what you're seeing bolded right now that I'm talking about. We have a ropes course that we do on Wednesdays, and we have quiet time. Most camps are too busy for quiet time, but this was introduced day 1 with RYLA in 5080, and we find that the campers need that time of reflection. We give them a journal. We ask them to journal during the week to write down what resonates with them, things that they want to do when they get back home. I've seen some of the journals, they talk a lot about their feelings during camp and new emotions that they may be experiencing for the first time. And they're able to deal with that here at our camp. We break for themes after quiet time and get ready for dinner. And then in the evening, we have additional activities with those nights that we talked about. And then we have committees that meet during the week, including photography, fireside sports, and entertainment. So when you look at the bolded on this, you'll see that that kind of covers those things that happen every day. Breakfast, morning ceremonies with our national anthems, our Rotary moment. We talk about Rotary every day. We talk about ethics every day. We go into our lunch program, our free time, and then this next slide will show you some of our sessions. So themes run throughout the week. We have awareness of self and others, leadership, family day, culture, diversity, ethics, personal mission statements. When you look at that 8 to 10 morning session that's highlighted right now, those are several days of activities that actually go into a theme for each of those days. So if any of those you'd like to know more about, jot them down, and my information will be at the end of the slideshow on how you can reach me and our team and learn more about what we do. Our 10:15 to 12 o'clock sessions, impromptu speech is wonderful. They've stumped me several times. Dave's given me some pretty exciting topics over the years that, oh, Dave, I still owe you for some of those. And we talk a lot about the different ways to give an impromptu speech, how it's easy to do a short speech a little bit longer, harder to do a longer speech. And we talk about public speaking, people's #1 fear. And so we're really excited that we have the connection now with Toastmasters to not only work on our impromptu speeches at RYLA, but also talk about how to involve Toastmasters and the professionalism that they bring to the impromptu speaking. We have family and community relationships, leadership and values. And we have a young man who was a RYLArian back in the maybe 1989, who left his job and trekked across Canada, stayed in monasteries, and had just this wonderful life story to share about not being confined to the box that you're in and how you can expand your life. And he's a great representation of that. Our 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock sessions need to be a little bit more interactive. Our kids play hard, they work hard. And so we do a lot of things during this session that involves them up and moving around. So when we talk about personal character strengths, they're actually set in groups of whatever color they turn out to be. And we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of specific personality characteristics. We deal with conflict, and we actually have skits with conflict and change that we put on how to work through certain scenarios that we give them. And then we come to the topic that you mentioned, Lorraine, about male, female in today's society. And I think you'll find this interesting that we break our camp into the male, female, or wherever they're most comfortable to be. And we do talk about what it's like to be that person in today's society. We talk a lot about expectations of each other. We talk a lot about culture. And then we do that for a couple of hours. And then in the afternoon, we come back together and we share not only what we talked about in our sessions, but we have a great question and answer time that really delves into what it means, not only to be who you are in today's society, but how that looks to people looking in. And that is one of our most powerful sessions during the week. We take those types of interactions, the personal character strengths, the male, female in today's society, and then we turn that into their personal mission statements, one of the most highly rated programs of our camp, where they really get to internalize later in the week how their leadership style impacts who they are and how they'll move forward once they leave the camp. We have a session after dinner because, you know, we don't want to have too much free time. And we talk about group dynamics. We have speakers come in. A gentleman from Royal Roads University in British Columbia comes in and talks about communications and coaching, listening skills, something so important today, especially in light of the way we share so much on social media. How do we really listen to hear versus listen to respond? And we talk a lot about that. We have multiple choice nights. They include swing dancing, painting, guided imagery. Lorraine's come in and done some great presentations on photography and travel. We have resume writing, vision boards, music. A couple of years ago, we had a group write a camp song. We have yoga, family dynamics, and then a session we call potpourri, which is anything goes. Put your questions in a hat, draw them out, and have that conversation. We have a person come in and talk about goal setting and motivation. We start our list of 100 goals. We also talk about grief and loss and self-care as part of our family day, and that's always very impactful to our students. It amazes me the amount of grief that some of our students carry around and how they're able to take our session on grief and loss and self-care and turn that into something that motivates them moving beyond RYLA. And then we always have an entertainment night, a talent show. Again, just takes your breath away to see the breadth of experiences and talents that these young people have. So that takes you through very quickly our 8-day version. And I'm going to go through these additional slides rather quickly because I think we'll see a lot of similarities in how we select our staff and how we select our students. Here's a picture of a bunch of us just sitting in a room laughing together after a day at the camp. This is a lot of our staff and some of our presenters. So student recruitment, our age group is 18 to 25. We look for strong leadership characteristics, but a lot of times we look more for the stealth leaders, those who may not have had that leadership position, that president of their class, but maybe we're the behind the scenes worker so that we can work with them to enhance those leadership qualities and get them to the front of the table instead of stepping back, although both roles are very important. You need to have a desire to learn and grow as a leader. If you don't have it when you get there, you certainly have it when you leave. You have to be able to deal with an intense environment. We're up at 6:30 in the morning. We're in bed at anywhere from 10 to midnight. So you have to be able to deal with a little bit of sleep deprivation as well. And you have to be able to take in and process a lot of information. So these are just some pictures from our camp back in I believe that camp picture in 1998. Marley, she might even be in that picture. I remember this picture because I was pregnant with my youngest son in this picture at camp, and he turned 22 just a few weeks ago. And then on the last day of camp, I just wanted to mention that we do shoe notes. You put your shoe or a bag out, and every camper is encouraged to send a note to every other camper. We have some mini RYLAs in our district that have been piloted by Dave in the Nelson Rotary Club. And then I think we have a couple people on this seminar that have worked on the mini RYLAs. We have added the Tri-Cities, Washington and Sandpoint, thanks to Deb on this call for the Sandpoint RYLA. We have Rotaractors. Every one of these kids, everyone except the guy in the back, have been to RYLA, and then they come home and we encourage them to join a Rotaract club. To us, it's a stepping stone. You do youth exchange, you do Interact, you go to RYLA, and then you join Rotaract. You might go to an international convention. I have, as mentioned earlier, been to 4. This one was in Montreal, Quebec. I put the picture at the top up because the people up there on the left, the lady next to me is from London, England. There's me from little old Idaho. Zdenek is from the Czech Republic, Ash is from Japan, and Madhu is from India. And then that picture up in the top is Ash's wedding. I was introduced to Japanese wedding, which is several days long, and that wedding cake is nothing like you've ever seen before. And then that bottom picture of that gray-haired gentleman, that's Sonny Brown. Sonny Brown started RYLA in Australia. He did the very first RYLA ever and is an inspiration to me even today for the work that he did to create RYLAs that are now going all over the world. Check my time here. Many of our RYLArians have gone on to become Rotarians, and you'll see 4 of them here. I just wanted to put up the fact that in their journey of Rotary, if they start, you know, and interact in youth exchange, many of them go on to become amazing Rotarians. These are just some of the milestones in Rotary that I wanted to share with you. This is RYLA in 2006 when we were in Canada. With the exception of one person in this picture, I'm in touch with every one of these people still today. So those long-lasting friendships that we create last a lifetime. So blessed to have them all in my life. This is RYLA in 2015. One of our young RYLArians was very moved by our district governor's speech on work that he was doing in Pakistan. And together he, with the rest of the RYLArians, raised $700, which staff matched. And we were passionate about that project. So when you look at this nameplate that is in Pakistan, it says that this project was sponsored by Daniel Perez, a young RYLA camper from the Tri-Cities, and the RYLA staff, along with several others in our Rotary district. And it just was a milestone that we were able to do that. Here is our 40 years of RYLA on the Canadian 150th anniversary. So that was a milestone for us to be able to share that while we were in Canada. Also that year was the year that my son came to camp. There he is for the first time when he turned 18, although he'd been there several years, not only in utero, but as a visitor. And then again in 2018, we moved to a new spot in Washington State. And I just have to mention there is my son again. So we unveiled a new look for RYLA in 2019 with the teal and the I Love RYLA shirts. And we also lost a young RYLArian in a drunk driving accident. He was actually hit by a drunk driver. And at this camp, we planted our memorial tree to memorialize our friend Eric, who his goal was to plant a tree in every state. We helped with planting his tree in Washington State. We did not have a RYLA in 2020, totally our saddest decision ever. However, we had chosen our junior staff, which are returning youth who were at previous camps, and we have been meeting. We met January through June to really fine tune our curriculum, look at everything with fresh eyes. And we will start meeting again in January to talk about perhaps a virtual RYLA in 2021. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview of our camp. This is my contact information and many of the people that I love. And I'll give you a second to jot that down. And then that's the end of my presentation. And I thank you for your time and listening. How'd I do, Lorraine?
You did great, Debbie. And you actually, if you hadn't had that 3-minute glitch, you would have ended on 15 minutes perfectly. So well done. So yeah, I will now introduce our second presenter. And, you know, adult RYLA, I always thought that for RYLA, it was the young adults. I didn't realize that it's actually fairly rare. When I started looking, because we wanted 2 presenters, I actually had to go outside of our zone. And interesting enough, I just went to the district next door to 5080 to 5060 to find Keith, who very graciously and willingly said that he would come and present at this conference. So Keith and his wife Sylvia have been members of the community of Vernon, which is in British Columbia, Canada, since the summer of 2009. Keith is currently the membership chairman for the Silver Star Rotary Club in Vernon. He is a past president of the Silver Star Rotary, and he is also co-chairman of RYLA for District 5060. and the chairman of the Rotary North Okanagan Athletic Awards Committee, which annually recognizes high school athletes in the North Okanagan. Prior to moving to Vernon, Keith lived in Houston, Texas, where he spent most of his career working for large consulting and technology firms. His career included 9 years as a partner with a large international accounting firms and 4 years running a global consulting firm for a division of Halliburton. He also spent time living and working in Calgary and London, England. His work took him to 32 countries and 6 continents. Keith's passion for leadership started almost 30 years ago. For the past 20 years, he has been helping people and organizations develop their leadership skills, and he has published a book on leadership entitled A Garage Full of Ferraris. I'll be looking for that book, Keith. Keith has coached high school football in Vernon, refereed high school football in Texas for 27 years, and is a published sports photographer. Football is in his blood, as he was selected to the very first collegiate all-Canadian football team in 1971. So please join me in welcoming Keith Johnston.
Thank you, Lorraine. Hopefully everybody can hear me, and hopefully my screen share will work. Let me push the button and see where we go. Let me.
Yep, there you are.
And slideshow. From the beginning. Okay, let me see if I can get to slide number 2. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. We have a smaller RYLA in a number of respects as far as number of participants and also the number of days. We actually go for, well, we hold our RYLA in Penticton, BC. And we do it in the 3rd weekend in May. We currently are running it at the Sandman Hotel. We used to have it at a resort in Naramata, but they closed down a few years ago. And so we moved into the Sandman, which is actually managed by a local Rotarian in Penticton. We picked Penticton because it's about equidistant in our district between the furthest northern club, which is in BC, and the furthest southern club, which is in the central part of Washington, state of Washington. We begin at Thursday afternoon at around 4 o'clock, and we wrap up at noon on Sunday. Typically, we have 25 to 30 participants. The age range is 19 to 24. 6 instructors or mentors, and the cost for the sponsoring club is $700. And like all the RYLAs, we focus on leadership. One of the things I like to do is, this is one of my favorite leadership quotes, and we encourage our participants to find a quote which resonates for them as far as what leadership really means to them. Leadership communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. We focus on the fact that leadership is a journey and not a destination, that they will be learning about new ways of leading and enhancing their leadership skills throughout their career and throughout their lives. We talk about what does the leadership program teach? When I was working for large consulting firms and large organizations, I was constantly surprised that when I was promoted to leader, our expectations were that we produce more sales. We now had to produce some weekly and monthly reports. We had to prepare budgets. And maybe we start acting like the president of the company because that's who they thought was a leader. But it really wasn't. The leadership training wasn't about leadership skills. It was about how do you sell more? How do you prepare the monthly reports? So we don't focus on those kind of things. We talk about, forgot that this slide rolled up like this. How do you become a leader? Well, you miss a Rotary meeting. All of us know that. Or you're appointed by senior management because you have the most seniority. Or you're promoted because of your technical ability. Maybe more importantly, you're elected by your peers because they think you're a leader, or you just take charge. Obviously, the first several reasons are what a lot of companies and organizations do, and unfortunately, they don't look at the leadership skills. And so we want to focus our weekend on what are those leadership skills. So our objectives are to explore and apply practical leadership skills to help them know themselves better, to learn and develop teaming skills, practice communication skills, and maybe most importantly, have a fun time with fellow adults. Like the other program you just heard about, we spend a lot of time trying to get our students, our participants up front and speaking in front of the class. And we do this from a variety of ways. It may be just as simple as everyone during the weekend has to at least introduce and thank a speaker. And that, again, is a Rotary tradition, but it gets them up in front. But we also encourage them to tell stories. And we give them a framework for how to structure stories. Stories are becoming extremely important over the last several years in business, in all organizations, as an effective way of communicating. And we've had some amazing stories from our participants. Some of them have brought us to tears, and some of them have had us rolling in the aisles, laughing, and still laughing today at some of the stories that have been told. One of the cornerstones of our program is the DISC communications, or behavioral styles. Debbie referred to colors, and DISC is another way of helping people understand what their communication or behavioral style is. It's a program that's actually, concepts have been around since 1929. I think the first DISC program was developed in the early 1970s. I've been exposed to it probably for 40 years. It was a tool that was used in many of the businesses that I worked for. But it breaks people down into, I guess, 4 basic areas. D's are your drivers. I's and they're very results focused. The I's generate a lot of enthusiasm. They're very influencers, salespeople, marketing people. S's are very stable. They provide a lot of support to the organization. And C's tend to be your accountants, your scientists, your doctors. They are very technically oriented. We have everyone develop their profile during the weekend, and we use it extensively, as you'll see in a minute. One of the key features of our weekend is a boat race. And this is where we actually first break our participants into 4 teams. The D's in one team, the I's in another team, the S's in a third team, and the C's in a 4th team. And they have to compete. They have to build a boat out of cardboard and duct tape. When we were at Naramata, they used to have to sail the boats around a pier, or try to sail the boats around the pier. Several of them would sink before they even got out of the dock. Now that we're at the Sandman Hotel, we take over their swimming pool for a couple of hours and sail the boats around the swimming pool. But it teaches them how to, from a personality standpoint, that you don't want to work with just people with your style. It teaches them the value of the other styles. The D's tend to do a good job of giving orders, but they're not as strong as actually delivering the work. The I's generate a lot of enthusiasm, but again, they need people to do the design work and do the technical work. The S's provide a lot of support. So they learn a lot about their personality style by working with similar people with the same personalities. Actually, our boat winner from a few years ago, I think 2013 or 2014, we actually sent her, she was a daughter of one of the members of my club, and we sent her to the International Rotary RYLA in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago. And she came back with one of the top 2 awards that were given out at that session in Washington, D.C. She subsequently went back the next year and participated, and we've been trying to figure out a way to work her into our program since then. So we teach them a lot, again, focus on what is leadership and what are the characteristics of a leader. And again, it's not the fact that you've been there the longest or you have the strongest technical skills, but you have a lot of other skills and characteristics which differentiate you as a leader and which are essential for you as to be a leader going forward. As with Debbie's class, we spend some time, actually have 2 sessions on ethics. We have to cram a lot more into fewer days and have to give up some of the things that Debbie does, but ethics we find is important, and actually ends up being one of the more interesting sessions. A lot of our feedback we get from our participants is that they weren't aware that organizations had to deal with these kinds of ethical issues. And usually what we do is we present them with a couple of different scenarios which challenge them ethically, and we get into some pretty lively discussions about what's the ethical thing to do in those situations. And again, a lot of it's building confidence, doing a lot of things over the weekend and teamwork, getting them up in front of people, the whole class to talk, and constantly working on building their confidence. And a lot of that goes on in the background. Just like in Debbie's session, we spend time coaching with them, talking to them one-on-one, helping them, reinforcing them as some of them will jump up in front, as you might expect, and jump in front of the class on day one, and are glad to volunteer for a lot. A lot of the others tend to hold back, and we have to work with them on utilizing their strengths. We usually have a big celebration on the final night. When we were at Naramata, we used to sail a boat around the lake for about 2 or 3 hours. Since we moved to the Penticton, we move off, and rather than eating the hotel food, we go to a nice restaurant. A couple of years in a row, we went to a theme restaurant that was just up the road from where we were in Penticton. Had a lot of fun with that. The final morning is our last exercise. I guess this is somewhat like your talent show, except we have each of the participants bring a piece of junk. And we tell them this can be anything, but it's something that you're getting ready to throw away, or something's been sitting around that you were going to give away or throw away, or in some cases you find it along the road on the way to RYLA. And they select their pieces of junk, and then we tell them they have to build something and then market it to the rest of the class. And as you can see from these pictures, what they come up with tends to be very entertaining, brings a lot of laughter to the last day of the class, and the creativity that these students come up with is absolutely amazing. We also, on the final morning, we recognize contributions and celebrate victories. This can be a very emotional morning for us because we started this a few years ago. I've been participating actively in RYLA up here since 2011. And 3 or 4 years ago, we started having this on the final day where participants stood up and recognized somebody that had helped them through the weekend, somebody that they admired. And it can be quite emotional because they bond in an amazing way over the 3 or 4 days we have together. And what they have to say about each other actually brings tears to a lot of eyes. I've put together a few slides here real quickly about some of the comments. We have them fill out an evaluation form at the end of the week and provide comments and answers to some of the questions we ask. What aspects of RYLA appealed to you most? I came mostly to learn about public speaking and how to inspire people, and I was shocked and thrilled to also learn about listening, when to be a leader, attitude, and how to be a better person. Which segment of RYLA did you benefit the least from? This question is beyond my IQ. I found RYLA to be amazing. But we also do a joy of conflict resolution, and that particular person didn't find that as interesting as the other aspects. How would you improve RYLA? We get this comment on almost every one of our evaluations. A few more icebreakers so that everyone meets everyone. More coffee breaks. I made a note here of your quiet time or your sessions where you allow them to visit with each other, Debbie. Unfortunately, given the compressed time frame, we don't have that much time to let them socialize except after we finish at 9 o'clock at night. And they usually go out on the town and get to know each other pretty well on that evening, but they sure would like to have had more time during the week to get to know each other. Overall comments, overall well-maintained, a safe, inviting atmosphere, beautiful location, amazing food. Really thankful and blessed and excited about the entire experience as well as my prospects for the future. This, I kept this slide in because this is our call to action when I make a presentation of some of the clubs in our district. I say, give a gift of leadership and sponsor a young person in your community. Like I said, it's $700 per participant is our scholarship amount. A few years ago, one of our clubs in Lake Country, British Columbia, approached us and they said, you know, we are a big fan of RYLA, but we, this year we've not been able to find a participant or a young person to sponsor. We'd like to donate the sponsorship amount, see if you can find somebody else from another club in the district to sponsor. This got us going down this path. And ever since then, we have, because some clubs have the money, but they can't find a student. Other clubs have, maybe they want to sponsor 2 and they find 3 qualified candidates and they can't afford the 3rd one. And so we match them up. We match the clubs that have the money with the clubs that have the students. Most of the time, the clubs are able to find somebody, but in a lot of cases they can't. Or again, they may not have the budget. Local or teachers, we approach teachers at the high school. Oh, I'm sorry, jumped ahead. Where do we find our candidates? When I first got started, it was the relatives of Rotarians, sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews. As our Rotary clubs have aged, we found fewer of those. So we've been hitting the universities as hard as we could. We actually put posters and advertisements up in the university. Friends of Rotary, we started tapping into graduates of youth exchange program in the last few years. I approach teachers. I coach at the local high school, so I know some of the teachers there, and I ask them to recommend former students. And I say local coffee shop. A few years ago, there was a young lady at my local coffee shop that I frequent. I got to talking to her and talked her into coming to RYLA. And that's about wraps up my presentation. I think I made it hopefully within the 15 minutes, Lorraine.
You certainly did. You certainly did. Well, thank you, Keith. So there were no questions. Everybody was hanging on Debi's and Keith's words because there were no questions that came up in the chat. So if anybody has any questions now that you want to ask Keith or Debi. Let's not all talk at once, people. Oh, here we go. Do they drink alcohol when they go out on the town?
That question is for me because I think Debi said that they lock their people in a campus. And the answer to that is yes. Like I said, we want to treat them as adults. We talk about that at the beginning of the session. We say you are going to be treated as adults. Interesting enough, we get feedback from the participants that it's the first time they have been treated as adults. We set our minimum age at 19 because that's the age, there are 2 reasons for that. 1, insurance purposes, but 2, that's the age of majority in British Columbia. But again, we monitor it throughout the weekend, but again, we treat them as adults. Since our high age is 24 and we don't lock them in their rooms, we know that, and we've never been in a facility that we could actually lock them in the rooms. We know that the 22, 23, 24-year-olds are going to go out drinking anyway, and there's not much we can do about it. And we decided a number of years ago we weren't going to be babysitters. We've actually had only, well, I guess 3 incidences over the years. In one case, we had a young 20-year-old come up from Washington. Our family was very strict. At the end of the weekend, we were coming back from the boat trip, actually. We stopped at the local pub to allow anybody off. She started to get off and we said, look, you do not have to get off. You do not have to go drink. That's not required. There'll be other activities back at the center. She said, no, I want to get off. I want to go with them. When she got home to her club in Washington, she reported to her parents that she was forced to drink. The district governor called me a week or two later and said, "Why are you forcing these people to drink?" We then addressed it with the district governor. We got to the source of the issue and said, told him exactly what had happened, that we had witnesses to support that. That was the unfortunate incident. A couple of other incidents where one young lady a number of years ago met some people at a local pub and went off and partied with them for a couple of hours and didn't show back up at the center until 3 o'clock in the morning. But over 10 years, we've had, like I said, 2 incidences that.
I'd like to say too, we have a camp, dry camp. Our kids are 18 to 25. And when we were in Canada, agreed the drinking age was 19. A lot of the students might get together after camp ended on that Saturday at noon and head out. We just asked them not to wear their RYLA shirts to the bars. But we strongly enforce a dry camp, not because we're not treating them like adults, it's because we want their attention. We're going to work them hard. They're not going to get much sleep. We are there for 9 days total with our staff, and drugs and alcohol are just a distraction from what we're trying to do there. The other thing I would say, it's specific to each camp, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. We are usually in a remote location. We're usually in a wooded camp with a ropes course or a lake nearby, or an area where it really isn't easy to go out and party. And so we kind of like that, and we've shied away from college campuses and places where students could walk downtown or leave campus. So we don't even really have to enforce it as much as just there's no access. So it's just worked that way for us over the years.
Plus in Castlegar, you have all the bears.
We actually had to deal with that.
Black bears right in front of your face.
Yeah, don't leave the doors open. I recall a walk. We were at Selkirk Community College in Castlegar for several years, and we do morning walks and runs before breakfast. And we actually had a black mama on one side of the road and the baby on the other. And we snapped a picture to show the kids what not to do and headed out of there as quickly as we could. So yeah, you got to be on top of that as well.
Okay, we have another question here. Have these RYLA camps always been for young adults, or did they evolve from high school camps?
I would say in District 5080, and Dave can confirm this as a previous camp director, that our camp has always been beyond high school. We did let 17-year-old students come when I first started with RYLA some 25 years ago, but with insurance and the age of adult of being 18, it changed our insurance protocols to start at 18, and I believe we've been at that for many, many years, 18 to 25. We have mini RYLAs in our district, which are the high school equivalent. They're usually a 4-day camp. There's 3 of those going on right now with others in the works that hit the high school age, and they would be eligible to come to the young adult RYLA if they so chose to do so. But right now we're 18 to 25 and have been for 43 years.
Correct.
As far as I know, ours has always been an adult one. I've just been involved again for 10 years, but I know for several years prior to me being involved, it was an adult RYLA and or young adults. And one question, and I know Debbie gets this as well. She's able to deal with it from an insurance standpoint. We're able to deal with it from the consumption of alcohol standpoint. But every year we will get a club approach us and they say, well, we've got a very, very mature 18-year-old. They're extremely mature for their age, and we want to send them, and we say, no, we absolutely cannot. The only time we made an exception to that was when a Rotarian from Wenatchee, Washington, came up and brought 3 of her students. She was a Rotarian, also a counselor, I think, at a local college, and she coached the soccer team. And she brought 3 young ladies up with her on the girls' soccer team, one of which was under the age of 19. But she absolutely guaranteed us that the 4 of them would work together their whole weekend. they did not allow drinking on their soccer team, and they would monitor the situation. But that's the only exception we made.
Debbie, oh, okay, Dave, yes.
I was just going to say that over the years, we've had to send folks home from camp, mostly because they haven't been selected correctly based on the criteria by the Rotary clubs. Some have sent people thinking that they would be rehabilitated, to put it politely, and we've had to send them home. And it's a tough decision. Some come that should be 18-year-old and mature, come immature. And our camp is working in groups, and that can be really just unfortunate for the group that they're in if they're immature. So we don't do it lightly, but we've had to send a few home over the years.
So Dave, how does that affect the rest of the campers when you have to send a student home?
Well, it does. It's an impact on their group, their individual group. It's an impact on the entire camp. I can think of one incident where we sent someone home from trail, a young lad that came with a skateboard and didn't sit in with his group, didn't do anything. I took responsibility as leader because we couldn't reach him, and we then use that as a training experience to say, here's things that's going to happen in your life, in your leadership roles, and here's how you can deal with it. So, and there's been nice evidence as well. It's only natural that 60 young people that something's going to happen.
Right. But it's not that frequently that you send anybody home. No.
Maybe
And Keith,
4 or 5 times in my 35 years.
okay. And Keith, have you ever had to send anyone home?
We've never had to. There's probably been a couple we would have liked to have sent home. But one of the things in comment that Dave just made about things happening, and particularly since we let them loose at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, on the first night, and ever since one of our incidences from a few years ago, we have them team up, and we have them share their cell phone numbers, and we give them all our mobile numbers. We said, if anything happens, if you need us for any reason, give us a call. Make sure when you get back to the room, you know everybody in your group where they are. And so we make them accountable for the other members of their group. And again, the clubs that select the students generally do a pretty good job of selecting the students that they send.
Okay. Yes, Arthur.
My question is there any rule, and my question is both for Debbie and for Keith, is there any rule about the use of cell phones during the period of time that they're with you?
Debbie?
Yeah, we try to have a cell-free area, and in previous camps, we were out in the woods far enough that they didn't have good cell service, and so that worked very well for us. But as you know, this age group does not do well without their cell phones. We do allow them in their pockets. They use them for pictures, they use them for all sorts of things, and then we try and have an open, we have 50 to anywhere from up to 60 students is what we can accommodate, and 16 staff. We intersperse our staff throughout the room. We call them on it. It's a very serious crime, so they may have to, you know, have some sort of sing I'm a little teapot in rap or sizzle like bacon, you know, different things like that. So we do bring it to the attention of the campers in the mornings. It's part of our morning show. So we discourage use during the sessions, but we do allow them in the sessions. One year we actually had a drop your cell phone at the door bag, and a lot of the students will just drop their cell phones there and pick them up for breaks and small group work.
We ask them not to use the cell phones in their sessions. Really haven't had too much of a problem with it. But this age group, they seem to be married to their cell phones. But and there's some sessions, I mean, they like, again, to take pictures. And there's some material we send to them which they're able to, they use their cell phones to access that material during the class as well. So we don't prohibit them, but we discourage use of, and really haven't had many problems over the years.
So Keith, in his presentation, he touched on recruitment because, as you know, with almost anything in youth service these days, it's difficult to recruit. Debi, you have a unique recruitment.
Right. So over the years, like Keith, we went to Friends and Family of Rotarians. We went to the schools, and we actually had, when I first started, a wonderful application packet that we sent out to all the clubs that had things like press releases and questions that you can ask to recruit. But what we found is that in this age range, a lot of the students have jobs, and it's difficult for them to take that week off without pay. We hold our camp a lot of times over the US 4th of July and Canada Day, so that they may already have a paid day off or two. And then we also have shifted a little bit. We still recruit from church and the grocery store checkout clerk and, you know, friends and family, but we also went to businesses and said, are you interested in providing one of your young employees with a leadership opportunity? We will pay for it. Because the clubs pay the $600 fee. What we ask is that you pay the person to come so that they can come up there without worrying about the financial repercussions of taking that week off. We promise that we will send you back an employee that is more confident, more educated, better listening skills, you know, schooled in things like leadership and ethics and knowing more about who they are. And it doesn't cost you anything except to pay them to be there. And we've had some success with that.
That's great.
We've gone to businesses on a couple of occasions as well, and have had success with that as well. It is, we do ours at the end of May because we try to catch them after they finished with their college semester and before they started their summer jobs. But we're not always as fortunate.
The other thing I would say is that we, like you, Keith, if we have a club that does not normally send a camper, and we have another club that is a small club of, say, Radium Hot Springs has 8 members, it's hard for them to come up with a $600 Canadian fee that translates to quite a bit more in US dollars. We will go to other Rotary clubs and say, if you're not sending, can you please support? And we've had great success with matching our campers with other clubs that have more ability to provide a financial stipend for that. So, and then I just wanted to touch really quickly on something that I see over here from Arlene. Our Rotarians change at RYLA too. It's not just about the campers and the young adults. It's about spreading expertise and your knowledge with these young people and inspiring them to go out and not only become Rotarians, but to become great Rotarians. So I think those of you who have been in RYLA for many years know it's hard to leave because you go every year and you learn as much from them as you try and share with them. So it's life-changing for our Rotarians too.
Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't have more Rotarians.
Yeah.
In the camps.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they like in Arlene's case, they go back now and she's now pushing, let's find someone to send to camp because she sees the value. Because I have Lynn Staples here from my club because she's young and energetic, and I wanted her to learn about RYLA so that she can get the fire in and pass that on to youth exchange. So it's yeah, it's how do we get the word out? And I'm thinking, I'm just seeing that we've got this wonderful tool called Zoom, and we can reach a lot more people. So Chris is telling us we have to be leaving soon. Oh, and here we go. Debi's talking about the Rotarian RYLA. Yes, I think that would be fabulous. But you know what, Debi? I want the 4 days up at Chawila Peak. I don't want a virtual one.
That would be even better, but we'll take what we can get in this virtual world until we can safely meet together again. So, and the same with our young adult RYLA. So grateful to be able to have an opportunity to do something virtually when we can't meet in person. Will it be the same? No. Will it be consistent? Yes. So there is that.
Yeah, I just want to ask one question. Out of all of you, how many of you are hearing about the adult RYLA for the first time? Just okay, great. Yeah, good. Because I mean, I think it's great. I wish they would have had adult RYLA when I was that age, because I was the person that would have stood back and been the last one to come forward and offer anything, right? Because I was terribly shy and didn't think that I had anything of value to bring forward. Boy, have I changed, hey? But would have been nice to have those skills way back when I was just starting my nursing career. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Keith and Debbie, for doing this presentation. We both have another session, but thank you. I hope those of you that have joined have gained some knowledge here and are able to bring stuff back to your districts and to your clubs. And I guess now we can all leave and go back into the main room. Good. We'll all head back to the main room. Leave breakout room.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you found your first session to be informative. I had the opportunity to look at a couple of different sessions and was very impressed and learned a lot. So great job. I am going to quickly share, just as a reminder, sessions repeat. So the content is the same. Of course, the discussion will be different. So middle school repeats, high school, young adult, and virtual RYLA. The one exception is there will be the RYLA Pros Roundtable for those individuals that have had lots of years of RYLA experience and come learn from the pros. Youth protection will not be offered this second session. So I am going to open up the breakout rooms again. And if you are able to choose your room, please do so. We will start at 10:40. And again, just by the nature of it, it's going to...
And now get the recording going again. Well, at least Keith, you...
Lorraine.
Pardon me?
Thanks for doing this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. This has been fun, and I was happy with, I think our first session went very, very well. So hopefully we'll have a couple more people. We had 12 in our first session. What have we got here? 7 so far? Okay, well, I think maybe everybody is here that's been here. So thank you to our 4 attendees. As you know, from the last session, we have a 1-hour session. And we have 2 moderators. They will each do a 15-minute presentation. And if you have questions at the time, while they're presenting, just put it into the chat. And then once they have both presented, I will read all the questions. And then after, of course, they've presented, then we will have a question and answer and a discussion. And with only 4 of us, hopefully we'll have a lively discussion. So Debbie presented first last time, so Keith will present first this time. So I will introduce Keith by reading his bio. Keith Johnston and his wife, Sylvia, have been members of the community of Vernon, which is in British Columbia, Canada, since the summer of 2009. Keith is currently the membership chairman for the Silver Star Rotary Club in Vernon. He is a past president of the Silver Star Rotary, and he is also co-chairman of the RYLA of District 5060 and the chairman of the Rotary North Okanagan Athletic Awards Committee, which annually recognizes high school athletes in the North Okanagan. Prior to moving to Vernon, Keith lived in Houston, Texas, where he spent most of his career working for large consulting and technology firms. His career included 9 years as a partner with large international accounting firms and 4 years running a global consulting firm for a division of Halliburton. He has also spent time living and working in Calgary and London, England. His work took him to 32 countries and 6 continents. Keith's passion for leadership started almost 30 years ago. For the past 20 years, he has been helping people and organizations develop their leadership skills, and he has published a book on leadership entitled A Garage Full of Ferraris. Keith has coached high school football in Vernon, refereed high school football in Texas for 27 years, and is a published sports photographer. Football is in his blood, as he was selected to be the very first collegiate all-Canadian football team in 1971. So welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Lorraine. It's hopeful that I'll get the screen shared.
Yeah, it worked last time. It's got to be good this time.
Okay.
There we go.
Go from the beginning, hopefully. Yeah, I think this will work. Oops. Thought I might have to back up. Let me back up to the beginning. Okay. Let me jump right in. Our District 5060 covers the central part of British Columbia and the central part of the state of Washington. So we cross a border there. We hold our RYLA in Penticton, BC, in the third weekend in May. We actually selected Penticton because it was equidistant between the northernmost Rotary Club and the southernmost Rotary Club. We also held it at a site in near Penticton called Naramata, which is right on the lake. It was actually a church summer camp for the first few years, but they had to shut down a few years ago, and we moved it to the Sandman Hotel in Penticton. We begin on a Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and we end at noon on Sunday. We typically have 25 to 30 participants. Their age range is 19 to 24. And typically we'll have 6 instructors or mentors. And our cost for the sponsoring clubs is $700. And we tell them at $700 Canadian or $700 US. So we're not in the business of trying to figure out the exchange rate. And we've had years where the Canadian dollar was more than the American dollar, and we still kept it the same. RYLA, we focus on leadership. One of the things we encourage them to do is throughout the weekend is find a quote that really defines leadership for them. This is my favorite quote on leadership. It came actually from Stephen Covey. Leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. We also focus on the fact that leadership is a journey, not a destination, and that as in the case with all of the instructors, we'll be learning more about leadership throughout your career with every experience you have. And every, I mentioned this before, but we focus on leadership is situational. So there's some people that rise to the top and are very effective leaders in some situations, but fall back and be good followers in other situations. One of the things I tell the participants is that typically, how do you become a leader? And what do employers expect of you? And I found it interesting throughout my career, and why I actually started focusing on leadership is that a lot of times when I was promoted into the leadership position, what was expected of me was more sales, produce weekly and monthly reports because now I'm the leader of the group, to work on budgets, and maybe start acting like the president of the company because that's who the leader was. And there wasn't this concept that leadership is needed throughout an organization. And that these, we were never really taught to be leaders. We were said, okay, you're a leader now. Here's the kind of things you need to do. How do you become a leader? Unfortunately, like a lot of us know, you miss a Rotary meeting. and you're next year's president. You're appointed by senior management because of your seniority. That happens in a lot of organizations. You're promoted because of your technical ability. Unfortunately, the strongest technical people aren't necessarily the best leaders. You're elected by your peers. Well, maybe now we're beginning to get into some of the things that make more sense. Or you just take charge. We focus on the things that are going to get you elected by your peers and taking charge. The other things, unfortunately, are what happens. Our RYLA objectives are to explore and apply practical leadership skills, to help them know themselves better, to learn and develop some teaming skills, to develop and practice communication skills, maybe most importantly, have fun time with fellow young adults. We spend a lot of time trying to work on speaking skills and helping the students overcome their fear of speaking in front of a group. So throughout the weekend, every one of the students has to get up and speak in front of the group. And it may just be introducing the next speaker or thanking the next speaker, which are some of our Rotary traditions. But we also try to encourage them by teaching them how to tell stories. Stories over the last several years have become a big part of companies, organizations, selling, influencing people. And there's all kinds of programs out there now to help you communicate with stories. And so we give them a structure for creating a story and try to encourage as many of them as possible throughout the weekend to get up and tell their story, 2 or 3 minute story. And the stories they tell are absolutely amazing. Some of the stories have had everyone in the class in tears, and other stories have had us all rolling on the floor laughing. And still to today, I think of some of those stories and I can't help but get a smile on my face. A real cornerstone of our RYLA is the DISC behavioral style assessment tool. Now, this tool is actually, concepts have been around since 1929. The first DISC rolled out in the early 1970s. I was exposed to it throughout my business career. Several of the companies I worked for insisted that we go through this because it helped us communicate more effectively with our customers, with our coworkers. Basically, it says that everybody falls into one of 4 quadrants. They're either a D, which are very results-oriented people, very task-oriented people. I's are very enthusiastic people. A lot of times you see marketing and salespeople who are I's. They're cheerleaders in organizations. S's, a lot of times, are human resources people in organizations. They provide a lot of support. They're very caring. And C's are very focused on accuracy and detail. A lot of times you see accountants or scientists fall into those categories. We have each of them go through this profile and identify what their style is. And then we use their styles to pair them up throughout the weekend, which you'll see here in a minute. One of the big activities of the weekend and most fun, but also one of the best learning experiences, is our boat race. When we were out at the church resort, they have to build a boat with their team out of cardboard and duct tape. And then they have to sail that boat. In the case of when we were on the lake, they had to sail it around a pier. And it was a race, boat race. Now that we're in a hotel, we actually take over the swimming pool for a couple of hours, and the final several minutes is sailing around the swimming pool. And we award a winner. But the thing is, this is our first chance. We actually determine who's in the teams by their DISC style. So we'll put all the D's in one group, the I's in another group, the S's in the third group, and the C's in the fourth group. And they'll compete against people with opposing styles. What they learn from that is that they don't really want to work in a company where everybody has the same communication style that they have. These are really good at giving out orders, but they're not necessarily as good at designing and doing the technical work. The S's are very enthusiastic, but again, they could use some help from people that can actually do the construction. So they learn a lot from this about their own style, about working with their style, and about the needs for people with all kinds of styles to make a good organization and a good team. Our boat winner from 2014, we actually sent her to the International RYLA in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago. And she came back with one of the top 2 awards at International RYLA, and there were probably about 120 people from many, many countries around the world. Debbie's going to talk to you about International RYLA here in a few minutes. Well, so what we talked to them about, what is leadership? And again, it's these kind of things, these kind of characteristics that are most important to leadership. It's not, again, how many years you've been with the company, although the experience and really helps as far as the credibility, but that doesn't necessarily make you a leader, or having the best technical skills doesn't make you a leader. So here are the kinds of things we talk about over the weekend and help them understand and see in themselves as well. Many people think that they have to be a certain style or a certain personality type to be a leader. And what we spend a lot of time saying is, no, you can be a leader regardless of your style or personality type. One of the more interesting sessions over the weekend, and I think a lot of the RYLAs have the ethics sessions. In our case, we run them through two different ethics scenarios. We give them a scenario of a situation they may run into either in their business life or in their career at some point, and then end up having very lively discussions about what the ethical way to approach these situations is. Many of them comment at the end of the session that they never thought that organizations had to actually deal with these kinds of issues. It never really dawned on them. And so they found these sessions very enlightening. Building confidence. Everything we do throughout the weekend is to help build their confidence. As you might expect, some of our participants will jump up in front of the class on day one, whereas others, you have to push them up there on the last day to try to get them to get in front of the class. And so we do a lot of back office or coaching with them and helping them build the confidence to get in front, and then encouraging them, obviously, after they've had an opportunity to get up in front of the group. Our final night of the weekend, we used to take a boat ride around the lake, about 2 or 3 hours. But when we moved into the hotel, we decided on the last night we wouldn't feed them hotel food anymore. We'd take them to a nice restaurant. And there was a great restaurant right down the road from us that was a theme restaurant where everybody dressed up in kind of medieval garb. And we've been there on several occasions. The last day is our last big exercise of the weekend, and we call it our hunk of junk. Again, we break them into teams. This time we mix the teams up, so they've got a variety of personality styles in the team. So we have every one of the participants bring a piece of junk with them to our weekend, to our RYLA weekend, and it can be something their family was getting ready to throw away, or in some cases just something they picked up on the road on the way to RYLA. But they have to get into their teams and they have to build a product and then present to the rest of the class and sell their product to the class. And the creativity that these people come up with is just absolutely amazing. Some of the things they, as you can see from some of the pictures here, that they create, it is quite hilarious as to what they come up with, and extremely creative. It's amazing what they do. The last day, we also do our recognize the contributions and celebrate victories. We first few years we just handed out awards and a certificate, and then about 3 or 4 years ago we started asking all the participants to use that last morning to thank other participants for their encouragement or their support throughout the weekend. And it's amazing how quickly they bond in just 3 days and become best friends, and the things they have to say about each other on that final day is quite heartwarming. We asked them to fill out an evaluation at the end and to provide us with the comments about their experience of the weekend. In this case, this young woman said, "I came mostly to learn about public speaking and how to inspire people. And I was shocked and thrilled to also learn about listening, when to be a leader, attitude, and how to be a better person." When asked which segment of RYLA did you benefit least from, this person said, "This question is beyond my IQ. I found RYLA to be amazingly good." But he did add that our session on the joy of conflict resolution probably didn't make it into his top 10. How would you improve RYLA? We get this every year. A few more icebreakers so that everyone meets everyone, even the shy people, and more coffee breaks. They, after they've bonded for the weekend and developed these strong friends, they wish they'd had more one-on-one time, more breaks during the day to just relax and get to know each other. Additional comments: overall well-maintained and safe and inviting atmosphere, beautiful location, amazing food. I truly am thankful, blessed, and excited about the entire experience, as well as the prospects for the future. I use this presentation when I make presenting to clubs in our district in a call to action, and I encourage them to give a gift of leadership, sponsor a young person in their community. It does cost $700 per participant, or a few years ago, one of the clubs in our district in the Lake Country here in BC came to us and they said they were a strong supporter of RYLA. They'd always had somebody, but that year they couldn't find anybody to send to RYLA. So, but what they wanted to do is they wanted to donate the fee and have us find somebody in the district to fill that spot, and they would pay for them. And ever since then, we've encouraged all of the clubs, if they couldn't find a participant, but they had a budget, we'd find somebody for them. And on the flip side, if maybe they were going to sponsor 2 and found 3 good candidates, we could maybe find another club to sponsor that 3rd candidate for them. And it's helped us meet our numbers. We have to have at least 20 to break even over the weekend. And so it was actually one year we had to cancel because we only had 13 people sign up. Where do we find candidates? The first few years I was involved with RYLA, it was a relative, sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews of Rotarians. But over the years, as we've aged as Rotarians, there have been fewer of those available. So we've started advertising at universities. We tapped into the youth exchange, Friends of Rotary. I coach at a local high school, so I talk to the teachers about former students. And I actually recruited a young lady from a local coffee shop that I frequent a few years ago. And we also, a couple of times, have gone to local businesses and recruited people from the businesses. I'm going to let Debbie talk more about that a little bit later. And that just about wraps it up for RYLA in 5060. Back to you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Keith. That's great. Next, we'll have Debbie talk. Debbie is been married to her husband, Scott, for 24 years. She's the mom of 3 and has 3 wonderful grandchildren. In 2017, Debbie retired from the medical center in Moscow, Idaho, after 17 years as director of youth services. Debbie was also a youth prevention leader supporting coalitions and students in the state of Idaho. She retired in 2020, and she is a certified prevention specialist. She's a founding member of the Light a Candle program and the Northwest Cancer Foundation of Hope, both groups raising money for local friends and neighbors battling cancer. Debbie's been a member of Rotary since 1988, and she is a member of the Rotary Club of Pullman, Washington. She has been involved with the RYLA and the RYLA camp for students ages 18 to 25 for 26 years and has been camp director for 16 years. She's attended 4 international RYLAs, working with students from several different countries. Debbie is also a founding member of the Rotary Ethics Initiative, now part of the Rotary Action Group for Peace and Peace Initiative. She's a past club president and has held many other officer positions. She's past assistant district governor and currently the Rotary district trainer until 2022. Debbie also enjoys working with all generations and learning from each generation. She likes to sing and dance. Oh, I've added the dance, sorry. She likes to sing. I'm assuming
I do like to dance.
and tries to play the guitar and piano. And if I know Debbie, she does them both very well. She spends time traveling, reading, and hanging out with her family and friends. And Debbie actually is on vacation in Hawaii right now. So she's given up some of her precious vacation time to be with us. So thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Lorraine. This was not a stretch to want to come and talk about RYLA, no matter where I am in the world. This is something very near and dear to my heart. So thank you for inviting me to do this. And I'm here to tell you just a little bit about the RYLA that we have in District 5080. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see.
And across the top of the screen, you'll see many of the current movers and shakers in our district. The gentleman in gray actually sat in on the last session. I was surprised to see him there and a little bit intimidated, as he's been involved in our RYLA and was camp director for more than 30 years. Debi Dockins. And you'll see as we go along, I'll introduce you to some of these other wonderful people. So these are the people that work year-round to bring RYLA to our District 5080, along with the junior staff that are previous campers that apply to come back in subsequent years. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about what the days in the life of our RYLArians look like while they're at our camp. So our camp is Washington, parts of Washington State, Idaho State, and British Columbia. We've had 3 camp directors to date and hundreds of staff and junior staff. Our age range is 18 to 25. The camps have been in both Canada and the US over time. Our cost is $600 per person, and we can take up to 60 campers. The camp is 9 days long when you count a staff training day. So 8 days for the campers, 9 days for the staff. People ask us, how do we entertain campers for 8 days and get that commitment of a 9th day from our staff? Well, our camp is fun. It's got a great reputation. It's been around for 43 years. We're energetic, we're hardworking, it's entertaining, and most importantly, the campers make it their camp. So there's a lot of buy-in to the camp. I'm going to ask you to not read this whole slide. I want you to only look at the highlighted parts. The reason I put the whole slide up is to show you what a camp looks like for 8 days and the amount of work that goes into the prep. I'll give you some general program ideas. You can jot down what resonates most with you. So let's get started with RYLA. We have the same morning activities every day from 7 to 8. There are announcements during this time that include theme days like Pajama Day, Neon Night, Western Attire, Hawaiian Night, etc. We have a daily news committee that talks about what happened the day before and what to expect during this day and beyond. We have 2 entertainment nights, 2 campfire nights, 2 multiple choice nights, a dance, and an occasional snipe hunt. If you go down to the noon time, you'll see that we have a staff meeting every day to talk about how to enrich the camp even more for those campers here. Every camp's different, all personalities are different, and so we always work through that with our staff meetings. We have free time from 1 to 3, and there's a variety of activities during this time. At the very beginning of the week, you'll see them out playing volleyball and frisbee and working on the ropes course, walking. Towards the end of the camp, you'll see them sleeping, trying to get caught up so that they can continue to be involved in the sessions. We have quiet time there at 5 o'clock, and we found that if we give our campers a journal, we send them off on their own somewhere on the campus where they can sit down and actually reflect on the day. We've seen some real changes in their goals of journaling, of self-reflection, of kind of taking that time for themselves, something that in our society today we don't do enough of. That's without their cell phones, that's without sitting and talking to someone else. That's simply 30 minutes of quiet time. Don't fall asleep or it's a very serious crime. After quiet time, we break for about half an hour to get ready for dinner and whatever theme is going on that night. We have dinner and then we go into later sessions and activities that are provided by our committees of photography, fireside, sports, and entertainment. So this next slide highlights just our morning activities, and we do have themes that run throughout the week of awareness of self and others, leadership, family, culture, diversity, ethics, personal mission statements. And so we really go into not only how to be a leader, but who you are as a leader. And it makes it very personal to the campers that are there to develop their own leadership style There is no good or bad, there is what is. And so we work with them on all levels of their confidence levels, giving them some examples and time to practice some different things with us and in a very safe environment. You'll see here that we have birth order, and we have a family day that I'll talk a little bit more about. And people wonder, why have a family day in the middle of a leadership camp? It's because who you are as a leader a lot of times is based on who you are in your family dynamic, how you were raised, what type of household you were raised in, where you are in the birth order, how you deal with conflict in family and those types of things. And so we find that it's very important. We talk about ethics, we talk about money, we talk about culture. There's a lot in those morning sessions. When you go into our midday sessions, you'll see that we spend a lot of time with more of a breakdown of those select offerings. So we have birth order, we have family communication and relationships, male, female in today's society, different types of things there, leadership and values, and a young man who is a former RYLArian who comes in and talks about his Rotary journey of telling his mom after camp he's quitting school because he found himself, and then becoming a PhD in linguistics. So Dr. Ristamaki comes back and tells us about his journey. Our third sessions right after lunch and free time need to be interactive. And so we do those same types of personal character strengths that Keith alluded to. We deal with conflict and change in skits so that they're working in their small groups to come back and present to the large group. We talk about the male, female in today's society. We had some questions in the previous session about, would you do an all male or an all female camp? For us, our district's not large enough to do that. Plus, we like to talk about where you identify, how that works in today's society. We break them into groups that they're comfortable in, and then we come back together and have a very wonderful discussion about what it's like to be who you are in today's society. We ask questions of each other, everything from, do you want me to open the door on a date, to, you know, how will you treat me when you see me on the street? It's very impactful. And then we do a US-Canada Day to talk about international interactions, along with some personal introspective work on personal mission statement. We also weave ethics throughout the week. We have an ethical moment every day that someone can stand up and write down one of their ethical commandments that they've been working on during the week, as well as talking about Rotary every day with small presentations on different aspects of Rotary. After dinner, we go into group dynamics. We bring people in. We have a professor from Royal Roads University who comes in and talks about coaching and listening skills. We have multiple choice nights that include swing dancing, painting, guided imagery, photography. Lorraine comes in and does a great session for us on travel in the past, resume writing, vision boards, yoga, family dynamics. We had a music group that wrote a camp song, and then we have a potpourri that anything goes. Put your questions in the hat and pull out the questions. And so I give you this busy several slides of our 8-day version, hoping that there's something in there that you see that you want to case, copy and steal everything that would resonate with you at your camp or in one of your sessions. And my contact information is at the end of the slide set. If you would like to contact me for slides or our workbooks on any of these sessions. I'd like to now share a little bit about how we recruit. As I said earlier, it's $600 to send a camper to our 8-day camp. And our senior staff are required to be Rotarians with an interest in youth development and leadership. They come to us when they hear about us, we weave them in. When I look at this picture, Dave's been involved for 35 years. Evan maybe for 5. And so we do have a variety of generational support as well as years of working with youth represented just in this one picture. Our junior staff are chosen from previous staff. In a year that they went to camp, they can submit a letter that states what they got from the camp and what they can give to the camp. And we've got wonderful, wonderful letters over the years of what has happened to these students when they've attended RYLA and what they've gotten out of it. We usually have 8 staff, 8 junior staff, an admin person, and up to 60 campers. And again, with staff training, our camp is 9 days long. When we look for our students, we go all over the place. Keith talked a little bit about the coffee shop person. We do the same thing. Church, teller at your bank, coffee shop person. We talk a lot about RYLA. We send our campers home and say, you need to recruit your replacement. So if you're a camper from Castlegar, go home and find the next camper from Castlegar. If you're from Spokane, Washington, go find your next Spokane person. We look in their age range of 18 to 25. And while we look for leadership qualities and characteristics, we also focus on those stealth leaders that are out there that may not be in the spotlight, but may have those qualities and just haven't had their chance to shine yet. And our clubs are really great at finding those students and sending them to us to further develop their leadership skills. They need to have a desire to learn and grow as a leader. And they need to be able to deal with the intense environment that RYLA is, that wide range of emotions they experience, meeting new people, showing up at a camp where they might not know anyone, and going home with lifelong friends. And they need to have the ability to take in and process a lot of information. We say to the campers on day one, we have 32 snippets of leadership styles and classes to share with you. Take what works with you, process that, make it your own. We don't expect you to take on all 32 styles of leadership, but we expect you to find yours and then work towards strengthening your own leadership style. And then down there at the bottom, I just want to point out that we do shoe notes. The last night, we ask every camper to write every camper a note. And I have 26 years of shoe notes. And when I'm having a bad day, I just open one of those bags and I remember why I'm here on this earth. And that is to work with these wonderful youth. That's a camp in 1998 when we were at Camp Roger Larson. I put that slide up as a reminder to me. I'm pregnant with my youngest child there. He was born in 1998. And so I said to my husband, I got to go to RYLA, see you in a week. And off I went. Excuse me. We have incorporated some mini RYLAs into our district. They were piloted with the Nelson Rotary Club in BC. It's a 3-day, it's in November there. And it's a very shortened version. And then we've added the Tri-Cities, Washington and Sandpoint, Idaho for a total of 4 mini RYLAs. And those are all at the high school level, similar to what many high school RYLAs look like in other districts. We encourage students to start with Interact and Youth Exchange, go to a mini RYLA, go to RYLA, and then join Rotaract. And these are some of the Rotaractors in my district that worked with us on the Polio Plus campaign. Once they go to Rotaract, we encourage them to go to an international RYLA. I've been blessed to be at 4. This one is in Montreal, Quebec. The people in the upper right-hand corner are from London, England, Czech Republic, Japan, and India. And Ash there in the picture with me, that's his wedding in the top picture. I've learned a lot about Japanese weddings that go on for up to a week, and that was his wedding cake. Over there to the left, you'll see one of our senior staff, Stacy, in that middle picture at an international RYLA. And at the bottom is Sonny Brown, who started RYLAs in Australia. He created the very first RYLA ever and came to an international RYLA and was like, it's kind of like an Elvis sighting, you know, it's like, wow, there's the guy that started all of RYLA. How amazing is that? Once you do all of that, many of our members go on to become Rotarians. And this is just an example of 4 people who shared their Rotary journey with me to talk about how RYLA has impacted their lives. This next slide actually has Marlise in it, and she's on the call today. She just recently joined Rotary, but this is from 2006. And I am pleased to say that I'm still friends with the majority of the people in this picture, Marlise included. So when she signed on this morning, I was really excited to see her on the call and in this particular session. These are people that become your friends, your best friends, your mentors that you can share this experience with time after time. And Rotary is truly a family. This is in 2006 in Canada. We've moved over the years. This is at Selkirk Community College in Castlegar, BC. And I put this slide up because one of our campers was very moved by a presentation by our district governor. And we raised over $1,000 to support a project in Pakistan. And you'll see on the plate there that is in Pakistan that Daniel, our RYLArian from the Tri-Cities, along with the RYLA staff, all came together to raise money for that project there. So RYLArians can do amazing things right from this little group of people in Castlegar, British Columbia. We were also honored to be in Canada when they celebrated 150 years of independence. That was our 40th anniversary. And on a personal note, the first year that my son attended RYLA, that was in utero back there in that earlier slide. Here he is at RYLA 2017. Came back as junior staff when in 2018, there he is again. And in 2019, we moved to Chewila Peak in Washington State and rolled out a new look of the teal shirts and the I Love RYLA. And then made the saddest decision ever in 2020 when we were unable to have RYLA because of COVID. However, the group of senior and junior staff that we had chosen came together January through June. We started looking at that very busy curriculum that I shared with you earlier. We updated, we changed, we rearranged, and we're looking at options for virtual RYLA in 2021 if we cannot meet. So that's an overall of our camp. These are some of the favorite people that are at the camp. Oh, look, that bottom right-hand picture, there's my youngest son again. I will say that I have 3 children. All 3 of them have been at RYLA. All 3 have come back as junior staff, and it's been a great experience for us as a family to share that. I have 3 grandchildren. My oldest is 13. I hope that I'm still around when he turns 18 and can attend RYLA too. So thank you for listening to me brag about our RYLA, and thank you, Lorraine, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Debbie. Another great presentation. Now, Marie, are you familiar with adult RYLA?
I'm not. That's why I am
That's
here.
excellent. That's excellent.
I am actually in Idaho, so the southern part. I know Ryan Kennelly he moved down to our district and talked so highly of it a few years ago. In fact, he went back up and served, I think, after he moved here.
He is a senior staff member right now.
Right, yes. And so anyway, first of all, this conference is great, and thank you for your time in doing this. But we all have an opportunity. I'm looking at the silver lining of COVID. We have an opportunity to kind of sit back and reflect on this as a planning stage of what do we do next. We have a very robust high school RYLA, but I attended the virtual because I really think that's going to be happening. But we've always talked about the adult section because we're getting our Rotaractors kind of up and running as well. And it's a great way to engage them initially. So that's my answer. I'm just here to learn more.
Alrighty. So if Debbie, you have a book on how to set up an adult RYLA, do you not?
We actually have an outline for a mini RYLA that we put together that they need to connect with the adult RYLA so that we're not overlapping and so we're complementing each other. So there's a pretty stringent criteria to start a mini RYLA in our district. We do have our outline of adult RYLA, but we haven't put it in that same format yet. What a great idea.
Sorry, Deb or Marie. I was just thinking if Marie wanted to start an adult RYLA down the road,
you just call Ryan and I, my son's at Boise State. Be glad to have an excuse to come down and work with you on an adult RYLA.
Oh, great. Okay. And my next question is your mini RYLAs, they are high school then, the mini?
Correct.
Okay.
And they're by school district so far. So we've had like the Sandpoint School District puts on a weekend mini RYLA at the school. They have some of the teaching staff come in along with some Rotarians. And I went up and worked at the one in Sandpoint and was really impressed. Deb Ford is on this conference and does a phenomenal job. So I can connect you if you're interested. And then Dave Douglas was also on the call. He started the mini RYLAs in Canada at the Kootenai School District. So yes, we have a lot of opportunity to do a lot more with mini RYLAs.
And your mini RYLAs run how long?
Usually they go on a Friday afternoon and leave on a Sunday, but there are some that have gone 4 days. It just depends. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing.
Okay.
Within our format, of course.
Right. Our high school RYLA, which is what we do now, is 4 day, Thursday through Saturday.
Nice.
Another day or two for the leader training. So anyway, but I was interested, and honestly, I haven't talked to Ryan for a bit, but it was his enthusiasm that piqued my interest because it was so different than what we heard. But I really think it's a great avenue, and part of it is allowing people to experience the Rotary family at different levels of their life, and then so
Yeah. Yeah. And as you can see, Marie, you know, Keith, they run a 4-day camp.
mhm,
Debbie runs an 8-day camp, and you go, you know, so you've got flexibility in what you want your camp to look like if you choose to. Marlise, I want to hear about your experience as an attendee.
Okay, so my first year attending was 2005. To be perfectly honest, my mom was a Rotarian and kind of told me I had to go at some point. And I was like, you know, the sooner I do this, the sooner I'm done and I don't have to listen to her anymore. So I went, and it was life-changing, honestly. So I applied to be a junior staffer for the next year, and was super excited when I was accepted. And then the next year, I said to Debbie, I'm like, well, I know it's the campers that get first dibs, but like if you need another junior staffer, I'll go. And she's like, well, it's all full. And I was like, okay, but like I took the week off just in case. And sure enough, I think it was a day or two before camp started, Debbie was like, this person just had to back out. Are you still off work? And I was like, yep, here I come.
Oh, great.
And yeah, so again, that would have been 2005, 2006, and 2007. I knew that really the only way to get back into RYLA was to become a Rotarian. And I finally kind of got to that point in my life. So I just joined Rotary in November.
And what club?
I'm with the Cranbrook Rotary Club. So the Noon Club. There's 2 clubs in our town.
Yes, the Noon. Yeah. I'm familiar with both clubs. So you know Nancy.
I do.
Nancy Davis. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of cool because we're the first 3 generations of women in the club now.
Oh, excellent.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is excellent. Yeah. Debbie, you mentioned ethical commandments.
Yes, so we, like Keith, we talk about ethics throughout the camp. And for several years, we did a pre and a post survey of, you know, we asked them some questions around ethics. Would you do this? Do you believe that? What are your thoughts on ethics? And then we sent those surveys to the Josephson Institute on Ethics, which is a large ethics collaboration with Rotary out of LA. And so we would do the pre-survey, and then we would have our ethics sessions, and then we would ask them to write 10 ethical commandments during the course of the week. And, you know, we would get up and share those with each other and steal them from each other, you know, as inspiration. And then we would do a post survey at the end that just had 2 or 3 questions of, did you learn something new? Do you have a better understanding of ethics? And then we would send that to the Institute as well. And we were one of those pilot Rotary RYLA groups that did that for several years with them. And so we really pushed ethics, and we do the ethical scenarios, I think similar to what Keith talked about, where we say, here's an ethical dilemma. And we have several written out that we give to the students, and then we send them out into their small groups, and they have to come back and argue both sides of the ethical dilemma, and it gets pretty passionate. And we always put it right before, Marlise will know this, we used to go to the lake every day on Wednesday, and I would tell them, if you guys are really great and get through your sessions, we'll leave a little bit early to get ready for the lake. We were always late leaving because they got so passionate about the ethics sessions that we couldn't get them to stop talking about it to go get ready to go to the lake, which was, you know, one of the highlights of the week. And so, yeah, it really resonates with our campers, and we have those scenarios that we can share. There's lots of them out there. You can even Google them But as part of the Josephson Institute collaboration on when we started the ethics initiative, we actually wrote a book for youth on how to embrace ethics and work through ethical dilemmas in all aspects of Rotary Youth. So we still have that book and we still use it.
So I'm just curious as to what some of the commandments might have been. What would come up?
Well, individuals are different. We have some students that one of their ethical commandments might be do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
And another student would stand up and say, while that's really sweet, I think my ethical commandment will be find out what others want and then do unto them as they would like to be done unto. So there you go, right? And then there starts the discussion. Or someone's ethical commandment might be to simply embrace diversity, or to be more open-minded to change, or to make sure that you look at both sides of a story before you make a judgment. Or when we walk them through the ethical dilemmas, there's really no right and wrong to those. This pharmacist just created a new drug that will cure cancer, but I can't afford it. So do I steal it from my wife and pay him later, or do I let her die because I can't afford it? Some people will say, go steal it and save her life and pay it later. And others will say, no, you can't take that from the pharmacist. He did all that work to create that drug. It's his drug, and so or one of our most popular ones is, I'm a shift worker at McDonald's and some of my kids can't make it on the salary. So I let them have free food, even though the corporate policy is to not let them, that they get it at half price. Do you keep giving it to them for free? So they're not black and white scenarios with easy answers. Some of the students have been in that situation where they've been a shift lead or that person that didn't have enough money for food, so they get pretty passionate.
Yeah. Keith, I wanted to ask you more about your hunk of junk. So you said that the students have to sell it, right? So they have to sell it how? Like, are they selling it for money? Are they selling it just in talking about it and convincing other people that this would be a good item to have?
More the latter. It's kind of a marketing and a sales presentation. So they take we pile the junk in a corner, and then we have them in teams, and they go over one at a time. In fact, they run over and they pick a piece of junk. And we give them a scenario first of what they're doing. Then they break into the teams, and they've got 7 or 8 pieces of junk that they've got to concoct and tape together and create something. So they have to determine what it is they're going to sell. And the ideas they come up with are just mind-boggling. They're trips to the moon, or going forward and backward in time, and they create these crazy things, and then they pitch it to the rest of the class. And so, and they'll put a hypothetical amount on it. For $10,000, you can get this fantastic item that will do this for you. So they're the kinds of ideas they come up with are just unbelievable, actually.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, what if you also not only had them sell it as in the past, but maybe later after have a little auction and auction them off, and then take that money and donate it to a charity of their choosing.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea, because a lot of times they'll take their, some of the things they build you couldn't take them with you, but some of them they can, and they'll take them. They'll create a little creature that stands about 3 feet tall, and has wires coming out of the top of the head, and they'll like to take them back as a souvenir. So yeah, we could auction them off.
Yeah, you might raise $100, and some charity will do well. Marie, I saw you had your hand up.
Well, I just had a question for Keith. Your camp is 4 days. So what, and I apologize if I missed it. They come like on a Thursday night and stay till Sunday, or?
We start at 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon.
Okay.
And we finish up at noon on Sunday. And usually we'll finish up and then feed them lunch, and they'll be on their way.
And do your leaders come earlier than that?
We come a few hours earlier. We usually have a few sessions during the year where we'll get
Okay.
together and talk. In our, we've got a primary structure, but every year we'll introduce different different leaders, and we encourage them to come in with their own ideas and their own presentations. And so we have allowed for the program to be modified somewhat. And
Okay.
if it fits within the theme of leadership, if they've got some experience teaching it. I ran into a guy who actually wasn't a Rotarian, but he'd written a book on leadership a few years ago. And there were a couple of sections of that book were absolutely amazing on talking about leadership. He had one formula for leadership that related power and responsibility, and he took people through that. And then he had one presentation that was just amazing that talked about the plane of normality and the valley of despair, and how it's a leader's responsibility. If a leader gets down, the whole organization gets down. And the longer the leader is in that, the organization's in that valley of despair, they're getting nowhere. And so it's a leader's responsibility, and it kind of focuses everybody's attention. Gosh, everybody's looking at me, and if I'm not upbeat and positive and going to get us out of this problem, they're not going to see it either. But the way he presented it was really, really very unique and engaging. So we bring in, we modify our program in minor ways throughout the year, depending on our president.
Right. And I have another question. DISC profiles and those analyses cost money. So does your $700 include that cost, or do you get someone do you have a practitioner that does it for free? Or?
Well, I've been a practitioner for several years, but there's going back many years ago, there was a paper DISC form you could fill out. And so I
am that old. Yep, I remember that.
So those are in their binders.
Okay.
We've done two things, and won't be able to do it next year because I'm not going to carry my license forward into 2021. But there is a leadership book that was written, and the company that I work with, which is RYLA, has a free leadership profile, and it classifies people into one of 8 different leadership styles and gives them a one-page summary of their style. So we have them all go online, go through that. We've done this for about the last 4 or 5 years. And so they come in with their leadership profile, which correlates pretty closely to their DISC style.
Okay.
If they're in the upper right-hand corner as an I, in their DISC style, they're probably in that quadrant in their leadership style as well. So we marry the two together.
Debbie, you chatted that you've done both. Do you do DISC as well?
We don't. We do color code is one of the ones that we've done, which there's a book out on color code. And we do have a lady that lives up in Canada that is just such a character and so much fun. She's come and done it for us through her college a couple of times, but she's hard to get. And then we have another gentleman that's come in that has a different system that's kind of like you're a joker, we haven't used him as much, but we did pay him.
Okay.
So it just kind of depends. Like Keith, there's a lot of free online assessments. And so what we do is encourage the students to go out and do them ahead of time now and then bring their assessment to the camp.
Great. It's kind of fun being the only non-person. I was just at the virtual session last time, and it was everybody, of course, is wondering how to do things virtually, as we all are, no matter what we're doing. Because the thought of breaking that continuity, I don't know about all of you, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And I will say this, another silver lining is we're able to do something like this and engage more people.
Yeah.
That is what is so exciting to me. I only have to take 3 hours out and learn all sorts of new things and get our team on here. And we're meeting next week to kind of discuss what did we learn from just this. So,
I
thank
like
you.
the idea too, that you'll be able to go out, as a facilitator, I missed the virtual RYLA session. And since we may end up going virtual this year, I really want to know what they're doing. I'm working with a group in Seattle that did virtual RYLA this year. So once these become available and go up on the zone website, huge commercial to go out and watch the sessions that we missed.
Right.
Exactly.
Debbie, did you have anybody from your team, Debbie, sit in on the virtual?
I'm not sure who all is where, so I'm going to ask
okay.
them when we get done. In fact, I was surprised to see a couple people like Arthur on the list. It's not something that's in his area of expertise. I love that he's just that lifelong learner that wants to know more about it. And
Well,
there he was.
I sent the invite out to all of our district AGs and asked them to attend, and I think he's the only AG that has attended.
I think so too.
Yeah. But, yeah, there was something I was going to ask or say. Oh, I know, Maria. I was going to say in our last session with our last group, we touched on, because we have young adults. Debbie's camp, it's a lockdown camp. It's a dry camp, right? They and it's situational. They always try and pick an area where the kids are sort of in the middle of nowhere and really can't get anywhere. But in Keith's camp, the kids are allowed to go out at night and go to the bars or what have you. So maybe Keith, you want to touch on that a little bit for Marie, just to give her more information, because
I appreciate that. I didn't even go there. Okay. I should have, but I didn't even think about that.
It's been a big issue for us, and one where we always run into it, and I know Debbie runs into it as well, as in recruiting. We set our age at 19 because in Canada, you can start drinking at 19. Also, there are insurance implications as well. But the reason, and every year we get clubs come to us saying, oh, we've got an extremely mature young person who's 18 years old. We want to send them. And we say, no, sorry, you can't. And we'll bring up the drinking. Well, they won't drink. Don't worry about it. Well, it's kind of hard if 3/4 of the class is going out to the bar and you're leaving that person back at the room.
Right.
And we don't, so we start off and we say, we're not going to be babysitters. We're going to treat you as adults. We also started a few years ago making sure they all had each other's phone numbers and our phone numbers in case anything happened that they needed help with. Since 2011, when I got started, we've really only had 3 incidences that created any concern. And one was just where a young lady went back to Washington and told her parents she was forced to drink. And that was not the situation at all. But it got me a call with the district governor. And the other incidences turned out to be nothing, but we coach them at the beginning. We say, look, you're responsible. You're adults. We're going to treat you such. And we figured out, because of the environment, even before I got started, they were doing this, that we couldn't lock them in their rooms at night. We weren't in a situation. The first place in Naramata, where we held the first RYLAs I participated in, they were within walking distance of a pub. They could be there in 20 minutes walking. And there was no way we were going to lock them in their rooms at night. And now that we're in Penticton, we're in the heart of Penticton at the Sandman Hotel. And they're probably 10 minutes from the closest bar. So we do what we can to make them responsible. We make sure they've got contact with us and contact with everybody else. And like I said, we've had 3 relatively minor problems in years.
Part of that's the learning process, though, right? They're adults, and it's about leadership, it's responsibility, it's ethics. That is a learning opportunity as well.
Yeah.
And with the age range, having people that are 23, 24 years old, telling them, we're going to lock you in your room tonight, just wasn't going to work.
Right.
And Debbie, do you want to explain your approach?
Well, we're usually remotely distanced from any bars and things like that, and we like it that way. We do have a no drinking rule. We want sharp minds there, and it's a adult responsibility to come there drug and alcohol free. And we have sent campers home in the past that have violated our rules, and that's an example to other students that there are consequences two rules of our camp. So yeah, we haven't, I think Dave said maybe we've sent 5 students home in 35 years, but other than one guy sneaking his girlfriend in, it's mostly been for drug and alcohol violations. So.
I was just going to say, we're going to have to leave pretty quick, but there's also the legal age, because in Washington it's 21. Is that not correct? And in Canada it's 19. So and you start your students at 18, so legally they can't drink anyway. And if you're down in Washington, then half of your campers can't drink anyway. So it seems to be, you need to be all for one or none for all type of thing.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so I've got the sign to leave the break room, so I'm going to push the button.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
For the great presentations. It's been fabulous.
The same, like 5 or 6 people.
Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. All of the breakout rooms have been closed. So this last part